our guest. I am so excited about um, her presence here today. Is joining from Minnesota, right? Yeah, okay. Yuko, poet and novelist, is an assistant professor of medicine and arts at the University of Minnesota, Rochester. Her work involves collaborating with artists and healthcare professionals to help adolescents in a psychiatric hospital setting. At least that's part of her work. Today, we will find out more about her work and this interesting topic, and more a little bit also about her relationship with origami and her personal life. So welcome, Yuko. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for accepting this invitation.
Thank you so much for having me, and then nice to meet you, everyone.
So you have written a lovely meditation on sleep. It's an essay, and I will also place the link in our post. And you pretty much, when you were growing in Japan, you say that you perceive sleep as a certain type of force or spirit that entered into our bodies. And then that perception became a question to ponder when you came to the United States, and you realized that through the language we communicate, or the English language communicate that state of sleep differently. We say we fall asleep. So I am going to share my screen and your poem and a photograph about the sleep, and then perhaps you can read the poem and tell us a little bit more about what kind of exercise or activity you do with this.
Okay, so I will first read this poem and then maybe I'll explain. Yes. Sleep mantra. Pretty pink paper pig Penelope. I repeat. Pretty pink paper pig Penelope. Still, I'm not falling asleep. I want to fall asleep, but so many ideas, good and bad, find me and sit in front of my brain like a friend waiting on the front step. I don't say, let me sleep, because if I do, I would get mad for not catching my sleep. So I close my eyes. I begin folding a pink piece of origami paper inside my head until it becomes a pig, Penelope, who is as neutral as oxygen, who holds no opinion about the way I sleep. I fold her again and again, like a prayer repeated, until it is all Penelope in my mind. Right. This is such a funny and then kind of a strange poem, but I think you do catch certain realities as well. So one of my job has been somehow communicating health-related topics through like a creatively, probably. So in psychiatric unit, which is the department that I often collaborate with, they have staff and they talk about sleep, the importance of sleep. You really need to get sleep, and here are the coping skill. Here are the steps you need to not look at your computer, walk away from your phone. These are logistical steps that we all could take. But is there another way to think about sleep? That was the request from many psychiatrists that I worked with. I think we should be able to talk about health related topics more creatively. And if we're inspired to try something to be healthier, that's better than, oh, we have to do this, we have to follow these logistical steps. And one thing I learned from sleep researcher is that people who cannot sleep, they feel so frustrated, and they often feel like I am the only one in this world that I'm not falling asleep while everybody else can do this thing called falling asleep. And that's in the language, the falling into sleep as if it's so easy, but it's not. And there are two things we all do, like sleep and eat, and also drink water. These are universal things the human cannot survive without doing, yet we all do it very differently. So that expectation that the sleep happens so easily, can we talk about that? Um, and then, so the question might be, how does your sleep arrive for you? And maybe many of you, like, does it hit you, or does it find you, or are you chasing it, or do you need to catch it, or do you actually fall into this space called sleep? We begin with that sort of a discussion theme extraction. Then I invite everybody to just come into my world. Like, so for me, it's like, if thinking about origami and folding paper helps me. So we all make Penelope, like pigs, but not necessarily. They can pick different colors, different shape, and it's sort of we. How do you express your sleep? They decorate each pig and then they name it, and then they tell sort of their story. So, for instance, this is my pig George, and he looks crabby because he hasn't slept and then for days, and this is normal for me. So in a way, like, you kind of tell a story, but his face is like this. He's just so sleepy. The one eye is closed, but the other one is open, and um, so it's a playful way to describe our sleep. Um, and I think your question was also how sleep is understood in Japan. In my essay, I talked a little bit about riding in the train, and if you have ever been to Japan, and if you're in the train and you look around and everybody's sleeping, like I always like, I've gone to Japan with my guests, like international guests, and they're like, why is it the Japanese people are so tired? Why are they passing out in the train? And it is true, they overwork and they're just passing out. And wow, so then this is sort of my imaginative mind. Like, is there something in the train that catches their spirit and then we all like pass out? But in a way, sleep, the language in Japan has multiple meanings, but it's like not doing anything, like a quitting your life. But that's very hard to do. And that's doing, like not doing is equal to sleep, which is different from falling into this space called sleep. So I think I was just questioning how we speak certainly reveal our expectation. And sometimes that can be difficult for people who cannot sleep. And then we talk about that playfully, like a little bit more playful approach by using something like origami and then decorating it into um, a specific character. With working with patients, I make sure that the origami is simple, that it does not get to complicated place, but we can personalize it. So that's like adding a face and then giving a name. So that's kind of my practice.
Regarding you yourself, when you are having trouble falling asleep or entering the space of sleepiness, do you do this? Do you fold paper in your mind? Because this is one thing that not long ago I was having trouble asleep, and say, let me fold something, and I chose one very simple figure, and I said, I'm going to fold it, and I never got to the end. And the next morning I woke up and I said, great, I will fold paper to fall asleep. And it works. Many times it has worked in addition to other tricks that I have had. But is that something that you do? Is that something that you recommend your students doing?
Well, I'm not sure about recommendation, but something that I do, but I would say within the boundary. So if something is so interesting, like what was that again? How do I go from this step to that step? And then I feel like I have to get up and then look up the YouTube to figure it out how to actually make it. Then like, no, 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 no. So I already know how to make this very simple pink Penelope pig. That's all I'm going to think about. And then that's all I'm going, that's a boundary. And I think that might be more of a recommendation. That's something that allows you to kind of focus without being so intense.
Uh-huh.
But we are creative being, all of us. So then once you start to wonder, I wonder, like, then I'm thinking very hard and I'm up and I just want to try new things. So ideas find me. I think sometimes I have to set that boundary. So it does work if I'm really committed to Penelope with pink paper with that particular type of pig origami folding.
Yeah, very the basic and something that you have in your memory, and that has been the case for me when I fold in in my bed, trying to fall asleep. I choose the simplest thing that I know by heart, because then the desire to go and pick up the book will be stronger, and that's it.
Right. You know, when you mentioned the recommendation, one thing I do ask patients to do is when they fold their, it's a companion that, you created this little origami pig. I would like you to have it next to your pillow when you go to sleep so that the George is kind of there with you. And then, he might look crabby, but hey, that's your sleep. That's a adding a bit of a compassion to your practice of falling asleep.